Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I am here to do my May reading wrap-up. So today I'm here to talk about everything that I read in May, and I'm also here to talk about the fact that this was my, worst reading month that's ever happened in the history of my channel. Now I say worst, which is actually not a thing I mean, because I don't think that the number of books you read affects how good or bad your reading month is. What matters is the quality of the books read, but I'll be honest with you, I completed 3 books in the month of May, and that never happens to me. So before we get into reviewing the 3 books that I read, I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that it's okay that I only read 3 books this month, and I wanted to talk about something that I get comments on a lot, and that is that people often tell me they don't feel that they can do booktube because they don't read that many books or that they don't read quickly, which I think is untrue. I think we all like to get caught up in the idea that the people with the biggest stacks of books in their thumbnail are the people who are the most watchable, the most interesting, or something. We've decided that whoever reads the most books in a month is the most successful, which I think is not a great idea to perpetuate. I think we're all readers, and it doesn't matter how fast or slow you read or how many books you complete in a month. It's okay to still be happy with that reading month, and what you think about the books you got read that month, those thoughts are still valuable. So this is me saying I have, in the history of my channel, done a wrap-up in which I read 18-something books in 1 month, and today I'm gonna do a wrap-up where I only read 3 books in a month, and both of those are okay reading months. And I'm perfectly okay with both of those things. May was busy. I wasn't reading, and you know what? I'm okay with the fact that I wasn't reading because I didn't really want to push myself to read, and reading is a hobby. So if I'm not in the mood to do it, I shouldn't push myself to do it. Anyway, that's all kind of a long intro, but I've been seeing that comment so frequently lately. I feel like I can't do booktube because I don't read quickly. Please don't think that. Please don't think that your thoughts about books are less valuable because you don't read as many of them. It is quality over quantity, and don't let booktube try to tell you any differently. So anyway, with all of that in mind, let's just jump into some mini reviews of the 3 books that I read in May. We're going to start with the lowest rated book, and then we're going to go to the highest rated book. This is really just a 1-star book and 2 4.5-star books, so it's kind of weird, but let's start with the 1-star book, shall we? The lowest rated book that I read in the month of May was Eona by Alison Goodman. This is the second and final book in the Eona duology. I read Eon last summer, probably in one of those months when I read a ton of books, and I really liked Eon. I don't know now if it was just that I was blinded, I was in a weird spot where I wasn't willing to seek out the flaws in the book, or maybe this was just lower quality, but I gave this 1 star and I absolutely hated it. So Eon follows a girl named Eona. She is in disguise as a boy named Eon so that she can be trained to hopefully take control of dragon magic. She wants to be something called a dragon eye. There are 12 of them, and they channel the energy and the magic of these 12 different dragons. Girls are traditionally not allowed into this role, hence why she disguises herself as a boy. So this sequel, I'm obviously not going to tell you what it's about, but it is the conclusion of the series. It's just the 2 books. And let me tell you some of the problems that I had with it. First of all, some of the more problematic stuff, there was some ableism, some really intense ableism that happened at the end of Eon that I was really hoping was going to get fixed in this book, and instead, actually, it just got 100 times worse. There's a lot of talk of magic fixing disabilities, how disabled people are inherently worse off. There's kind of a lack of discussion of consent concerning curing disability. It's all just really not great and really not discussed in any way that's useful. Beyond that, there is a trans side character, and I was hoping that because this is a book wherein a character dresses as a different gender, there would be a lot of discussion of gender in a really great way, especially from the point of view of the trans character, and actually, I hated the way that the trans character was handled in this book. There is little to no discussion of gender, and the things that the trans character is forced to do in this book in particular, you would think there would be a lot of talk of dysphoria or any of the various things that she's facing, but there's no conversation about it. She has to dress as a man, and aw shucks, that's kind of too bad for her, because she wishes she could dress like a lady, but that's kind of the end of how that's dealt with, and I was just really unimpressed with the level of discussion of, gender in this book in general. Beyond that, I had a real issue with tropes in this book. There was a romance that came kind of out of left field and that I never really was a fan of. It shoved a love triangle in at like the 11th hour, like just in case you thought you were gonna get through this series without there being a love triangle. Don't worry, put your fears at rest. It's just gonna slide in there at the end. So yeah, I had a lot of problems with this book. In general, I don't think the writing was that strong. I thought it was really tropey and far too long. This was like a 640-page book. Way too many pages. Way too many. I thought any confrontation that the characters dealt with was really blown out of proportion, and I didn't love that. And if you guys know my channel, you know that I reserve my 1-star books for books that offend me, that have stuff that is offensive in it. And that is why this got 1 star, for the ableism and the terrible, terrible handling of gender and that trans side character. So sadly, I did not like the conclusion to this series, and I think I'm going to have to unhaul this duology in general. So moving on up, the other 2 books that I read in May, I liked significantly more, and the first one that I'm going to talk about is Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Seanan McGuire. This is the second book in the Wayward Children series. The first book is Every Heart a Doorway. I talk about it far too often on this channel, and this is the next book in the series, but it is a prequel book. So in Every Heart a Doorway, there are these 2 twin sisters, Jack and Jill, and this is their story. Every Heart a Doorway, as I'm sure I've said many times before, is basically about children who go through worlds and discover a magical world where they truly belong, and then they're dumped back into our world, and they don't know how to process that, so they end up in a home together. This is the story of the world that Jack and Jill visited. Jack and Jill are twin sisters, and when they were born, their parents made really arbitrary decisions about the kinds of ways they would raise these 2 girls. They decided, based on a few comments that these small children made, that one was a tomboy and one was a princess, and they were going to have to stick to these really strict gender binaries for the rest of their lives, and it deeply, deeply affects Jack and Jill's relationship to each other, to the world. This book is basically about how forcing gender roles and forcing roles in general on children is horrifically damaging and like life-altering. But they do end up in a world together, and there is a guy called the Master who rules over the moors, and then there's a mad scientist, and the girls have to choose, one with the Master, one with the scientist. Seanan McGuire's writing is so gorgeous. It is so gorgeous. So this book is incredibly short. The number of tabs in this do not reflect the number of times I wanted to use tabs. Every single time I read a new line, I was like, oh, that's beautiful. I want to mark that as my new favorite line. But I couldn't do that on every page because that would be absurd. Her books are lyrical and engrossing, and her characters are fascinatingly complex. I love the way the characters speak. It's very fairy tale at times. What I loved about Jack and Jill in the original was about how they talked about expectation and gendered expectation and parents and all of that. There was so much of that and more in this book. One of the main characters was queer, lovely, fabulous. I adored this book, and I cannot wait for the 3rd book, which, let me just show you the cover. This is the cover of the 3rd one. I think it's called Beneath the Sugar Sky. How gorgeous is this book? I absolutely adored it, Down Among the Sticks and Bones. I liked Every Heart a Doorway a teeny tiny bit more, but I know that I want to return to this book over and over again, just like I want to go back and reread Every Heart a Doorway. They're some of the best written books I've ever read, and yeah, I gave it 4.5 stars. I mean, like, I loved it. That's the main point. And my favorite book that I read in the month of May, I'm sure some of you have already guessed it, it was, drumroll, A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. It's kind of weird to be saying this because while I liked ACOTAR, I wasn't in love with it, and I just barely unhauled my entire Throne of Glass series, so I don't know, it's kind of a weird place to be in that this is the month that I unhauled an entire series by Sarah J. Maas, and yet this book that I read by her was my favorite book that I read this month. So like I said, this is the sequel to ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and this one is monumentally better. It was so good. The first one is kind of a loose retelling of Beauty and the Beast. This one has kind of Hades and Persephone elements. Obviously, I can't tell you what this is about, but let me tell you why I found so much value in this book, because there have been a lot of complaints about this book, and I want to talk about why I found it incredibly valuable. This book talked about abusive relationships and depression in such an authentic and magnificently important way, I think, for teens especially. This book took the pains to go step by step through how an abusive relationship works and how this main character could continue to convince herself that it was not an abusive relationship and how it was kind of ripping her apart. It's about the value of being able to get out of that abusive relationship. It's about how it continues to follow you and how you can grow from it. It did so much for me. It talked about abusive relationships in a way I have never read about them before, and I couldn't get over the fact that that has been glossed over in a lot of the reviews that I've seen. Not all of them. There are people out there talking about this, but I just wanted to put that out there that that's why I loved this so much. It also, I want to talk about this because I really haven't seen anyone talk about this. It talked about male victims of sexual assault. Never have I seen that, especially in YA. For a male character to deal with that was also incredibly valuable to me. I loved the slow burny romance of this, of course. I adored the character development. I love every character in this book and the way it kind of works as a found family. I just think that there was so much good here, and I cannot wait to get my hands on A Court of Wings and Ruin. So yeah, I loved A Court of Mist and Fury, and I'm okay with saying that. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really want to finish off the series, and I hope that the third one continues to do really awesome stuff in terms of abusive relationships, depression, sexual violence, all of that. I'm looking forward to it. Okay guys, there you go. That is everything that I read in the month of May. Those 3 books, and considering how much I absolutely adored 2 of them, I'm feeling pretty good about it. It's sad that I ended on Eona, because that's the last book I read. But, you know, give and take. What did you guys read in the month of May? Please let me know what you thought of those books down in the comments below, as well as what you thought of any of these books, if you've read them. I'm assuming a few of you have read a few of these books. Oh, wait, so I forgot to mention that this is an ARC. This is not out yet. This is coming out in June. This is coming out June 13th, so keep an eye on it. It's very, very fast approaching, but Tor did send me this book for free in exchange for an honest review. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Anyway, let me know what you read, let me know what you thought about the books I read, and please know that you don't have to read a ton of books to still have a good reading month. That's my overall theme of this video, I think. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!